Alright, hello and welcome. This is just gonna be a quick tutorial because I couldn't find any other tutorials that actually teach me how to do this. I just wanted to recreate this small wobbly effect when you jump into the painting for from the good old Mario 64 back in the days. And yeah, I looked around, there wasn't anything sufficient. Nobody actually did it before apparently, or they just didn't put a tutorial up or anything. And people who did ask never actually got a answer that was somewhat useful or anything. So I just decided to do it myself. And after I figured it out, I'm gonna help the people who are also looking for this answer. So it's actually quite simple. The only things we're gonna need is our painting portal. Whatever you're gonna use for it. I made a frame, a picture, or the canvas in this case would be a better word for this. We're just gonna need a material property, a parameter collection, and one material. That's all the things we're gonna need. The material parameter collection is only gonna need two materials, which is gonna be one float value intensity and one vector value at the character position. These are gonna be used since the method I'm using is not very that flexible, but it's the easiest solution I found. So we'll have to do some tricks here and there to actually make it useful for us. But it's still relatively simple. So yeah, the only thing we're gonna need is we're just gonna make our canvas. It's gonna need a lot of vertices. The more vertices, the smoother the animation is gonna look. So just yeah, make your frame if you want a frame. Have the canvas stick slightly into the frame, otherwise you're gonna see the edges wobbling around. Or you can just have it no frame at all and just have it sit there. But yeah, my tip is if you don't know the scaling from, if you go from Blender to Unreal Engine, where's my, there is my cube. Yeah, our standard cube. This is the standard cube. If you change the size by 50 at the scaling, so the dimensions are 100 on each side, this is going to be the default cube you get from Unreal Engine if you just place it down from the menu. So you know how to somewhat scale your thing here in Blender to actually match what you want in Unreal Engine. Because this is actually, I think, exactly 1 meter in Unreal Engine. So you can use that to scale your stuff. Or you just scale it in Unreal Engine, but I don't think that's a good solution. But yeah, okay. All you need to do is just export the stuff. Nothing special to these are just simple geometries that we're gonna need. One thing we do have to do is we have to go into our picture canvas, whatever you're gonna call it. Make sure there's a simple box collision added to it. Otherwise, what we're trying to do is not gonna work. Oh, I see. I changed it before, so now my box collision is not correct anymore. So we might as well just make a new one. Box collision. But it's there. I can see it. Delete it. Why are you not doing it? Now I'm gonna have two of them. No, this is not that. Never mind. Boxes. Get this thing. Can I not just delete this? What? Remove. There we go. Okay, now add a box simplified collision. That is exactly what we need. You're gonna see the green outline, and that's already good to go. Just save that. You can close that. And then the only thing you're gonna have to do is make it into a blueprint that you could plop down. Put the material we're gonna need. This is the entire function we're gonna need. These are the two. These are our two material parameter collection thingies that we're gonna need. Since I stole most of the stuff myself, I can't quite exactly explain how these things work. I just know that we're creating a sphere mask that is gonna follow the player using the character position. It's gonna follow the player around the entire time, and once it collides with our portal, it's gonna start offsetting the pixels, whatever you're gonna the mesh, to our sine function that we modulated it around to have some. You can play around with this however you want. It's quite. The only thing I wouldn't change is the hardness. Just leave it out as it is. The distance is literally just how close it starts being affected by the player. I set it up so it wobbles, even when you're just getting close to it. It's not doing the actual thing right now, because there is something we have to change later. That's another one of the limitations that this strategy puts us on. It might not look impressive right now, but that's just because I set it up to be not so impressive right now. Because the only thing is, if we just change the distance to like 50, it's not gonna wobble unless we get pretty close to it. And the wobble will be tiny, so yeah. The amount of the distance is not gonna just do that, because it will. It's basically just the size of the thing that is around you, and it just collides with this. As soon as it collides with this, it's gonna have the wobbles, and obviously the bigger it is, the bigger the wobbles will be. So 200 is another good value. I'm just gonna keep it on 300. So it looks something like this. If you use the same values that I did. Okay, this is the function that we're gonna need. But now we still need to set these two, the intensity and our character position. It's just basically an unlit material. For my sake, it doesn't really matter what else you use, as long as it's, I guess, opaque. It should work fine, because I think most materials are gonna have the world offset position, so it doesn't really matter. For my case, this is exactly what I need. This is just a placeholder. Since I'm gonna need more of them with different pictures in them, I'm gonna have this as a parameter as well, and black is gonna be the placeholder. And once you make the instance, you can just change it to whatever you need. So that's fine. But yeah, we still need to set these two, and this is the only thing we're gonna need to do outside or in our character. This is the only function we're gonna need in our character. We're gonna this is coming from the this is coming from our event tick. It's going into the portal, so this one will be called every time it ticks. So our position is gonna be updated every single time, as long as the set portal location is active. That this is gonna be important for the wobbling to stay in place where we hit the portal. Because otherwise, if we do not do that, if we hit the portal here and we just go through, as you can see, it doesn't stay where it is, as if you just never actually jump through. It will just follow you wherever you go. I mean, this could be fine for whatever you're using, but for what I wanted it to actually stay where it is and have a bit more wobbly to begin with. So what we're sending them is our actor location, and we're just gonna, yeah, convert that over to the parameter value, and this one will be set. So yeah, this is the only thing we're gonna need to do in our character blueprint. And the other thing we're gonna have to do is in our door painting, whatever you're gonna call it, blueprint. So we're just gonna have an overlap event. That's what we needed the collision for. This is not really necessary, but I like checking if it's the actual player character that's colliding with whatever we're doing. And this is why it's not working right now, because I haven't set it up. But that was just to demonstrate how it's gonna look if you don't set this up. So I'm just gonna cast my character to unset the set portal location. And then we have this tiny timeline over here that's gonna play around with the values. And once that's finished, it's gonna set it back to set the location and reset the intensity that we set here. Because if we do that exactly with these values, it's gonna look something like this. So you get closer and closer and closer. It starts to slightly wobble. And if you actually jump through, plop, it takes it, I think, 4 seconds or so is the timeline. And it's just gonna stay there, increase the intensity slightly, and then lower the intensity until it's completely gone, so it actually looks like it's faded out. This is exactly what I wanted to have, and it sticks around where our character is. But as long as that timeline's playing, this thing will not move with us. It will stick wherever it is. So we have to wait until until it's gone again. That's one of the biggest limitations, that you couldn't just have it move around with. But it's just how it is. Otherwise, it would take much more work to not have that. But since these are going to be level transitions anyway, it shouldn't really matter. This should be exactly what you need for. So you just jump through it, you see this, and level transition. So this should be perfectly fine. So yeah, what we're actually doing is, yeah, we're starting every time we jump through this thing. We're telling our character to stop setting the location. And then we start this timeline. This timeline is just going to update the intensity, not the character position. It's going to set the intensity, which is going to fade 4 seconds long. We're going to start at 0.1, because if we start at 0, it's just going to be blank. And then we slightly increase it as first, at least that's how I like to do it, until a certain point, and then we drastically start lowering the values until 4, where our value reaches 20 intensity. And if you have this higher value, it's just going to be flat. The intensity is going to be too high. I know it sounds counterproductive, but it's going to be too high, and it won't do anything, at least from visually. It's definitely going to do something, but visually it just looks like a flat plane again. So this is how we mellow out the waves again after we're finished jumping through it. And yeah, then we're just, once this is finished, we're just gonna tell our character again to reset the location constantly. And we reset this parameter we just played around with, we just reset it to 1. Or depending if you want the portal to wobble before you jump through it or not, you'll just have to set this to 20 if you don't want it to wobble. And if you want it to slightly wobble, you just set it to 1. If you want more wobble, just go down to 0.1 at max. Because, as I said, if you set it to 0, it's just going to do nothing. It's just going to be blank. You can't even see it anymore. We can demonstrate that for now. Okay, yeah, we haven't played around with it yet, but once I jump through it, wait until the timeline's finished, and plop, it just disappears. So yeah, whatever you want this value here to be, so it actually works before you jump into it, the portal, you'll have to set it here as well. Because if we set it here, then the portal is going to be gone from the beginning. It's gone. So we're setting it to 1. Or if you don't want it to wobble, we can set it to 20. And it won't wobble at all if you get close to it. But it will wobble, bam, if you jump through. That's just however you want to have it. I like it like slightly wobbling before, because there you can perfectly see how the wobble is actually following your character. If you just stay in this corner, but if you jump through, you still get this. So I guess there should be anything that you need for this. You can just play around with this as you like these things to have. But yeah, a very short tutorial, and I hope you liked it and that you can play around with this. Okay, bye then.